And welcome to Have I Got News For You? I'm Damian Lewis. In the news this week, in a local branch of Waterstones, one customer is disappointed to discover that they have no more copies of the latest Razzle annual. In London, engineers working on the Crossrail tunnel fear that they may have veered a bit too close to the surface. And after describing David Cameron and George Osborne as arrogant posh boys who are out of touch, Nadine Dorries is invited to discuss the matter over a kitchen supper at number 10.
It's still going.
With Ian tonight is a naturalist and broadcaster who has been seen on Spring Watch, Autumn Watch, and if he lurks around in people's gardens much longer, Crime Watch. Please welcome Chris Packham.
Thank you.
And with Paul tonight, a Scottish comedian who grew up in Glasgow, then worked as a lawyer in America with convicts on death row, though they still had a longer life expectancy than people in Glasgow. Please welcome Susan Calman. And we start with the biggest stories of the week. Paul and Susan, will you please take a look at this?
Ah, yes, this is our friend Jeremy Hunt. He's got into a lot of bother there. This is a rather subtle allusion to the fact that he regarded himself as a cheerleader for the Murdoch Empire. There are some people with puppet heads, James Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch, and there's the kiss from Judas. Yes, I'm a bit embarrassed about this because Jeremy, what's his name, came to see one of my shows in Edinburgh a couple of years ago. Remember, my audience wouldn't deliberately mislead anybody. So I'm quite willing to believe everything he says.
So that's you and David Cameron?
Yes. If the Prime Minister thinks he's OK, that's good enough for me. I'm quite naive about these things.
Well, the Prime Minister's had a very good track record.
Yes.
I mean, Andy Coulson was OK.
Yes, he was all right, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Till he wasn't.
Until he wasn't.
Yeah. So what's your reading of the situation, Mr Hislop?
Do you know...
What?
I don't think the government come out very well out of this. It does appear that they were so far up Mr Murdoch's bottom, you couldn't see any of their heads. This is the Leveson inquiry, and it was a shocking day. Mr Hunt was the Culture Secretary. He was in charge of the bid for B-Sky B, and yet his office was giving information all the way through to the Murdochs.
I mean, why hasn't he gone? It's more about...
Well, he's there as a firewall, isn't he? If he goes, then Mr Cameron is looking very shaky.
It's like that thing of when everybody gets annoyed with each other and they end up kicking the dog. I mean, James Hunt has dismissed his private advisor.
James Hunt?
James?
Former racing driver. Why am I asking this man? Why am I asking him? He's got no idea. He's mixed up 4 million other racing drivers with the Culture Secretary. Mind you, if you're going to get his name wrong, it's better to get his first name wrong rather than his second name.
I think I was trying hard not to get his second name wrong. Consistent with the 70s.
You're all right in the zone. This is the news that the Leveson inquiry has finally perked up at long last, and everyone is...
finally perked up. There have been some notably excellent witness statements.
You turned up there, didn't you? You were in a very happy position of having nothing to hide.
Yeah, but I had no idea it was going to get this good. Murdoch today, selective amnesia, fabulous. You know, the medics must be having a field day. Can you remember anything about phone hacking? No. Can you remember how badly all the politicians have behaved? Yeah, I bloody well can.
This is a one-man show in this.
Yeah, it's a one-man show.
So what's emerged about Culture Secretary Jeremy Hunt and a spad called Adam Smith?
It's just that thing of you sack the person below you. So Jeremy Hunt will sack him, Cameron will sack Hunt, and then we'll sack Cameron.
Yeah.
And everyone will be happy.
It's a bit difficult to believe that Jeremy Hunt doesn't know anything from his special advisor.
The explanation is that it was just one rogue advisor. It's a Channel 5 movie in the making, really, isn't it? Rogue Special Advisor.
Yeah.
You could take over the part of Adam Smith in the next... I don't know if you would like it. There's less nudity, I don't know. Maybe there's more, I don't
do
know.
like to be nude, if I can be.
Do you know, I know I've watched Homeland. I'll never watch it again with my mother after the first episode. That was
Why, was she in it?
No. It was just quite a shock when I watched it.
Oh, really?
I've seen more of Damian's body than I have of any man in my life, to be honest. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I feel very honoured.
In the cache of emails, it's, you know, what does Mr Hunt think, what does Mr Hunt think? There seems to be a tiny moment where it's not going Murdoch's way. So there's another email saying, Rebecca Brooks has rung up the Chancellor, George Osborne. So essentially they've just gone over his head. It is quite shocking in its way. Aren't you shocked?
Oh, I'm terribly shocked.
You watch
I'm
Badgers
shocked
most of the time.
I've been watching too many Badgers this week. I've clearly missed something absolutely intriguing on the television. I'm amazed how assiduously you've obviously watched this. It's giving you a great deal of trouble, isn't it?
This is what interests me. I mean, you...
Of course.
You watch the Foxes and say, oh, look, he's going in the hole there, and then you sit there for 3.5 months and say, oh, look, he's coming out again.
I've got to be honest with
I'll tell you.
When the fox comes out, it's not the same fox, and we just lie about it.
What's French Fred?
He's the PR man who was working for Murdoch, who was writing half of these emails.
That's right. And by way of illustration, here's an email from Frederick Michel to his boss, James Murdoch, sent on November 15th, 2010. Jeremy tried to call you. He has received very strong legal advice not to meet us today, as the current process is treated as a judicial one, and any meeting could be referred to and jeopardise the entire process. My advice would be not to meet him today. But you could have a chat with him on his mobile. Which is completely fine. After being congratulated by Monsieur Michel on a job well done on the television, how did Jeremy Hunt respond?
Oh, treat us. There's so many goodies.
Merci. Hopefully, when consultation over, we can have a coffee like the old days, he said. And now career practically over, he can have a coffee whenever he likes. One email brought gasps from people at the Leveson inquiry when it was read out by Robert J. I love Robert J, QC, but I'm developing a bit of man love for him.
It's the way he goes through the tabs, isn't it? I believe this is bundle 38.
Yes.
Tab 7, brackets, you lying bastard.
So, yes, it brought gasps, and Frederick Michel, he told James Murdoch that he had managed to get some infos on the sort of thing Jeremy Hunt would be announcing to Parliament the following day, adding, although absolutely illegal. I think that's supposed to be a wink.
I thought it was the smiley face to start with.
It means more than in the field of science.
So they knew it was more than illegal?
Yes.
I've
It could
seen
be a high-speed train knocking over a lamppost.
That's part of modern life now, isn't it? If you put a lol at the end of something, it means it's funny. So it's, I'm going to come and kill you in your sleep, lol. And, you're meant to find that...
And even worried if your name is Lol, that's even worrying.
How did James Murdoch respond when this was read out to him at the Leveson inquiry?
He said it was a joke, but given that he is a Dalek... I mean, he talks purely in management speak. He sort of pours bullshit on everything until there's nothing understandable left and everyone wants to die.
He'll never do his PR. He's great, he pulls bullshit over everything, and then everybody wants to die. Book him. Great after-dinner speaker. He never gets any dessert.
Anyway, the idea that he could spot a joke made me laugh.
Well, I don't know. I think he's got a very good sense of humour. There he is. How has Culture Secretary Jeremy Hunt answered calls for his inevitable resignation?
He stuck his fingers in his ears and said, I can't hear you.
He claims to have handled the matter with scrupulous fairness and has warned against knee-jerk reactions.
Yes.
Talking of reactions and jerks, what has Ed Miliband been saying about the Culture Minister? Let's have a look.
He was providing advice, guidance and privileged access to News Corporation. He was being a back channel for the Murdochs.
Sounds unpleasant. Although, ironically, almost the opposite of the name he's usually called. Let's remind ourselves of that one more time, shall we?
First up after the news, we're going to be talking to Jeremy Hunt, the Culture Secretary about broadband. It's 8 o'clock on Monday, the 6th of December. American officials have condemned WikiLeaks after the website published a list of hundreds of facilities said to be vital for American security. Every community in Britain has been promised that will have access to the fastest broadband networks within 5 years. Excuse me.
He's not a Glaswegian, is he?
No, I don't think so, but the Scots can say the C word particularly well. It's
With
a term,
maximum impact.
Well, it's a term of endearment.
Yes.
It's in the marriage vows in Glasgow.
Yeah.
It is.
According to a journalist who worked for Murdoch's Wall Street Journal, how did Jeremy Hunt avoid being seen arriving for a private dinner
He hid behind
with
a tree.
James Murdoch?
He hid behind a tree.
That's right. I wandered back into the party and told one of the organisers the Culture Secretary is out there hiding behind a tree. We know! Came the response. So James Murdoch did tell the inquiry that he definitely did discuss the proposed takeover of B-Sky B with David Cameron at a Christmas party at Rebecca Brooks's house in December 2010, something David Cameron has always denied, although Murdoch said it wasn't a discussion, more of a tiny chat. Something like, will it go through, David? Yes, James. Mince pie? Lovely. Meanwhile, what did Rupert contribute to the Leveson inquiry yesterday and today?
He basically shafted all the Prime Minister of this country for the last 40 years. He said they're all pathetic, they all sucked up to him.
There was a rather fascinating point where he insinuated Gordon Brown was slightly mad. That he declared war on the Murdoch.
No one else has suggested that.
You know, if you want a Fife man declaring war on you, it would sound quite aggressive. And that's the thing, Scottish people can sound quite aggressive without meaning it. That's the problem. For example, if I said, "That's a pretty baby," that just sounds quite...
I mean, Scottish, as you say, you know, a hard Scottish accent can sound aggressive. I mean, other accents, for example, sort of Midlands accent is, you know, it's impossible to convey any sense of drama in a Midlands accent. Yeah. Oh, no, the building's on fire. No sense of drama or emergency there, you see.
And finally, at long last, who wants to see a lingering shot of former News of the World chief reporter Neville Thurlbeck, he of the infamous Fort Neville emails on Newsnight. I think you should have a look at this.
Joining us now, Neville Thurlbeck, the former news editor and chief reporter at the News of the World, who's now the PR manager for Talking to Minds, a PTSD charity. Neville Thurlbeck was arrested over allegations of his involvement in phone hacking and is bailed until next month.
Mr. Sinister's in the building.
Yeah, this is the appearance of the Murdochs at the Leveson inquiry, which heaped more pressure on Jeremy Hunt, the Culture Secretary. Or, if you're watching the repeat, the former Culture Secretary. Or, if you're watching on Dave in a year's time, the Executive Director of B-Sky B. The story dominated the front pages on Wednesday. The Mirror went with Murdoch's stooges. The Telegraph went with absolutely illegal. The Guardian went with Minister for Murdoch. And The Sun went with Torres scores! Although, to be fair, it was an amazing game. Ian, you're a Tottenham fan, aren't you?
Very much.
Yeah. So if Chelsea win the Champions League,
the big thing tonight.
It's problematic
Not
for
tonight.
you, isn't it?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Not yet.
May the 24th.
No, that'll be terrible for us.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we and I will be gutted if we don't do what you said.
Yeah. Must remind me not to ask you about football again. In his evidence to the Leveson
You might
inquiry...
as well ask Richard Murdoch. Richard Murdoch, he was a very fine comedian in the 1930s.
He's a friend of James Hunt.
In his evidence to the Leveson inquiry, Rupert Murdoch recalled a conversation with Gordon Brown, who told him, "Your newspaper has declared war on the government, so we have no alternatives but to declare war on your company." At which point Tony Blair perked up and said, "Did someone mention war?" Ian and Chris, take a look at this one.
It's Nadine.
Nadine Dorris. Don't remember who that is. Or him.
They're the posh boys who don't know the price of milk. This was an embarrassment for Osborne because his father's going to buy a rather elaborate desk.
Oh, and it's the Bay City Rollers.
The Bay City Rollers were at their prime in 1975, and things haven't been worse since 1975.
What, for them?
I think for some of them, because some of them are no longer with us.
Yeah, but that's a bit of a downer, so let's get back to the recession. It is a double dip, and it's very depressing.
Dutch government's disappeared. Lots of right-wing activity in the French elections.
Yeah.
Price of the euro's gone down. Instability in the eurozone, not good for our economy. All of that piled on top is got to be a bad news for
I can see
government finance.
a wasteland with only foxes left to roam, gnawing at the remains of...
The last of the Bay City Rollers.
You're absolutely right. It's about the shambolic week for David Cameron and the coalition government. The BBC weren't trying to influence our feelings at all either way when they interviewed a Northern Irish businessman who said, "If things carry on like this, we'll be on our knees." And that was a man called Raymond Moan. The Tories are doing so badly. They're under fire from their own side.
Yes.
Nadine, who we just saw, Dorries, describes herself as a council estate scouser. But how did she describe David Cameron and George Osborne?
Two posh boys who wouldn't know the price of milk.
Well, I think it's really pathetic to bring class into it. I mean, take any two posh boys and you'll find, Damian, that... pretty much the price of milk we know.
Well, I know I'm arrogant and I don't know the price of milk, but I'm not that posh.
But you're an oldie Tonian, though, aren't you?
Correctamundo.
So, tell me.
I can't discuss the back channel.
No.
We've already done that.
Funny enough, I wasn't going there.
You're filthy.
David Cameron recently described Eton as a fantastic, fabulous school. What is so fantastic about it?
About the school? You get to wear really snazzy clothes.
So did the Ku Klux Klan, but...
Can I ask you something, Damian?
Yeah, please.
You had dinner in the White House with David Cameron and Barack Obama.
Yes.
Yet, you are a member of Al-Qaeda.
I found myself in a three-way conversation with Mr. Warren Buffett, who was sitting on my left, and the President of the United States, who was sitting opposite me, about the economy. We talked about it for a bit. You can all sleep easy in your beds tonight. Fixed a few things. David Cameron sat down and just went, yeah, Barack. Now, golf, yeah, I think you'd take me. But tennis, Barack, I think I'd take you. And Obama had been looking down at his food very politely, and he looked up and went, "Oh, really, David? Well, we have a few hours tomorrow morning if you want to put it to the test." Really steely, looking at him. I was getting on a plane the next morning at 7:30. I was sharing this anecdote with Mr. George Osborne.
The things you see when you haven't got your gun.
He looked at me and he went, "Guess where they are now?" Thrashing it out on the tennis court at 7:30 in the morning. History doesn't relate who won.
So at an official dinner where he could have had opportunities to talk about important things, he talked about tennis, and then at a Christmas party where they weren't meant to talk about things, they talked about the potential takeover of B-Sky B. Well, thank God he's got things the right way round.
See, the thing is, if I was sitting next to somebody called Warren Buffet, Warren Buffet, I'd have to keep making jokes about his name without him realising it. I'd say, "Is that your finger buffet?" You're feeling a bit hot, Buffet, you know. Have you done much travelling, Buffet? You know, I wouldn't stop all night. That would be me well happy.
Cameron says he does know the price of a pint of milk. What did he price it at?
57p.
What do you think the price of milk is?
I believe it's 3 and 6pence. And it comes from a delightful little man in the village.
Of course, we have our own cow.
Milk doesn't come in pints anymore, it comes in litres.
I don't want to be the one to break it to you, but there are still pints of milk out there.
Are there? I don't know how much they cost either, I can tell you that.
I could sell you one for £5.
Cameron says he pays just under 50p for his pints. He says, "I do a lot of shopping. I go to the Sainsbury's in Chipping Norton." Yes, lovely family. And David Cameron tried to restate his aims and beliefs on the Today programme. He said, "I want people to know I'm more pro-enterprise, more pro-work, more pro-effort, and more pro-get up and go."
Do we know anybody who's anti those things? Because, I mean, it's sort of... Nobody's anti-get up and go, apart from undertakers. I mean, there's nobody else.
George Osborne's also been embarrassed this week. Why?
He looked in the mirror. I don't know, why was he embarrassed?
His father. It was his father.
Yeah.
His father was planning to buy a ghastly desk at auction from Sotheby's or Christie's. A photograph appeared in one of the papers. A terribly ornate thing, not terribly practical, nowhere to put a PC.
Yeah. Fornaschetti Architettura Trumo desk costing £19,000. Do you know what Peter Osborne's full title is, anyone?
Sir Peter Osborne?
Sir Peter Osborne, 17th Baronet of Ballintaylor and Ballylemon.
Where's Ballintaylor and Ballylemon? I just, like, is it like Narnia? Is just made up?
Well, the Ballylemon's in the fridge, isn't it?
And the Ballytaylor's just down the road. I'll get the soup.
What's Ed Miliband been doing recently?
Trying.
Yeah.
Watching his...
Oh, he tries his best. God loves a trier. God loves him.
this is just going to break your heart when you see what's coming up. Watching his poll ratings soar, in fact. Labour now have a 13% lead over the Tories. This must be a real confidence booster for the Labour leader. But watch this.
Could we get a photo with David?
Is that okay?
This man right here.
Hello, Ed Miliband. Nice to meet you.
This is another bad week for the Tories. Nadine Dorries accused David Cameron of not even knowing the price of milk, to which Cameron retorted, just under 50p. Though that price will no doubt double once Francis Maud starts a milk panic.
Put the milk back into cows, demands Francis Maud. It's the safest place for it, says Twit.
You have jerry cans full of milk in your garage.
Exactly. Mix it with petrol and make it go further.
Also this week, George Osborne's father was in trouble for revealing a list of extravagant purchases. Tim Bell, Mrs Thatcher's old PR man, was asked to comment. Everybody now seems to be driven by jealousy. You can't talk about wealth anymore, he said from the gold-plated gondola of his airship. And so to round two, the news of the swirled.
That's brilliant.
Here's a cleverly distorted picture of swirly news. Buzz, when you know what it is.
I don't know who he is, but there has recently been a suggestion that we could mine gold from meteorites from outer space. Things flying around, they're covered in gold, loads of gold in them. If we can capture them, we can get free gold. Although, I think it's not very practical. I think his head's too big for his body, for a start. And he's in outer space and he can't breathe. And that axe doesn't look like it'll do anything.
We've got a real scientist here.
It's asteroids, and they think that they can build a craft which can go and mine the asteroids, and all sorts of people have bought into it, people with lots of money.
And who is this?
It's actually James Cameron who's behind this crazy scheme.
I would be a bit concerned about James Cameron's plans because James Cameron did direct Aliens. I'm not saying it's real. I know Homeland's not real. Nice body. But what I am saying is that this could be the start of something pretty bad, right? So my vote is let's not go and mine anywhere where we don't know what's going on, right? People from England very rarely come to Scotland, never mind go to outer space. So let's not go there. That's a conspiracy.
They're a company called Planetary Resources Inc., which, in addition to James Cameron, has the support of Google billionaires Larry Page and Eric Schmidt.
Are they going to set up a haven there on an asteroid and claim it's offshore, or rather off Earth, so they have to pay no tax at all ever again?
Peter Diamandis is involved, who last month told Forbes magazine, "Since childhood, I wanted to do one thing, to be an asteroid miner." Aye, it's a grand life, to be sure, Pete, working down space pits. Apologies to anyone from Yorkshire in the audience.
I thought it was Zimbabwe.
What's stopping us mining the hell out of it right now?
It's not practical.
There's one major drawback, yes.
Asteroids are in space.
The major drawback is the mining equipment that would have to be bolted to future generations of craft has not been invented yet. Let alone the mechanism for getting minerals back to Earth.
It's meant to cheer us up, the idea that, OK, the national debt's £1 trillion, but there's trillions and trillions just up there. So cheer up.
so we could watch it whizzing past us.
And finally, does anyone know which asteroid scientists have labelled as their first contender for pouncing upon?
No, I have no idea.
Nereus 4660, which will fly within 2.4 million miles of Earth in 2021.
So have your wallets open at the top of a high step ladder.
Be ready.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the plan to extract minerals from passing asteroids, according to The Guardian. An enormously rich corporation plans to start lassoing asteroids, bringing them to the moon to be mined and broken up, and returning the most valuable metals back to our planet for use in batteries. Nice thought, but Superdrug are doing 3 for 2. According to the Daily Mail, extracting raw materials such as iron and nickel from the space rocks is a possibility that has been discussed for decades. Yes, ever since cannabis was first smoked. Right, fingers on the buzzers, please, teams.
Yeah, this is a really serious story, actually, and I think it should be treated with a great amount of seriousness, that the boy band One Direction, on a visit to, I believe it was Australia, held a koala. That's not the serious part of it. The koala urinated on One Direction.
In One Direction or on One Direction? In all directions on One Direction.
They were then told the, quite frankly, shocking statistic that 80%, that's 80% of koalas have chlamydia. There is therefore a real and present danger that One Direction, top boy band, will have contracted chlamydia from a koala.
Is the correct answer. Hey, Chris, any idea how does a koala get chlamydia?
What you mean, for the very first time? Well, you've got to look to human interference, haven't you?
It is Australia we're talking about, after all.
I guess some of those bacteriological and viral infections will cross from species to species, but I can't think of finer people to get a sexually transmitted disease than those three. Brilliant musicians.
A bit like how Cortez eliminated an entire generation of the New Americas.
Quite, yeah, well, we live in hope then, don't we?
I'm not sure, but I think that's advocating genocide, isn't it? Simon Cowell, the man behind One Direction, has been in the news a lot recently. Why is that?
Biography's been produced.
Sweet Revenge, the intimate life of Simon Cowell, has been released. What things did we learn about from Simon Cowell's book? I'm going to give you a clue.
Yeah.
Cling film.
I thought of something, but I don't think it's right to say it.
According to The Sun, he's recently hired a female therapist who visited him weekly to cover him with oil, wrap him in cling film and squeeze him into a tube.
Squeeze him into a tube?
He's turned into toothpaste.
He went to a doctor afterwards wearing nothing but cling film wrapped around his entire body. The doctor looked at him and said, "Well, I can clearly see your nuts." Yes, this is the story from Australia that members of the boy band One Direction may have caught a disease from a koala. There was a moment of confusion when singer Harry Styles announced, "Guys, I've picked up chlamydia," the lesser-known sister of Kylie and Danny. The incident took place during a photo session. Asked if they'd be happy to cuddle the dopey but cute-looking creatures, the koalas said, "Yeah, why not?" Fingers on buzzers, teams.
I'm hoping this is Chris's moment.
Oh, my goodness me.
What type of penguin is it?
It's a penguin that should be in South America or in South Africa, by the looks of it, not an Australian one. So there's a zoological inaccuracy.
There's a sort of a heist involved.
Someone stole a penguin and then they found the penguin in a canal or a park.
Or on a beach.
Or on a beach. One of those three.
Yeah.
Or another answer.
It's so improbable, it's right. This is the news that 3 British tourists in Australia, again, have been charged with stealing a penguin named Dirk.
Did they dress up as nuns and pretend he was a nun as well? 3 nuns and a little nun walking along the road.
If I was going to steal a penguin, I'd put a wig on it and a dress and pretend it was my child. And I would just walk out, bold as you like.
Yeah.
Come on, Cynthia. That's what I'd call her. And off we'd pop with a penguin.
That's the old joke, isn't it, about the man walking down the street with a penguin and the policeman comes up and says, you ought to take that to the zoo. He says, he's been to the zoo, I'm taking him to the pictures now. I remember that from school.
They broke into SeaWorld.
SeaWorld?
SeaWorld.
Oh, I know a good story about...
Go on.
There was a dolphin that had been sort of spent some time being injured, and it was in one of these sort of like, you know, wildlife parks in Florida or something where they teach them to do the trick where they bounce up and on their tail and go backwards like this, which they don't normally do in the wild. And this dolphin was released back into the wild. And about 2 months later, they saw a whole sort of pack of dolphins or herd of dolphins, whatever, all doing this trick. So they'd all learned it from this one dolphin. It said, well, look what I can do. I love the idea of a dolphin coming back into the sea and going, yes, have a look at this. It's a nice story.
It's a great story.
They're very intelligent, aren't they? We don't know how intelligent they are, really.
Have you swum with dolphins?
I have, yeah, I have. Yeah, they're not that intelligent at all, actually. But they have a voice, which is really neat. So each dolphin knows the other dolphin because it has its own voice.
Can you do a dolphin sound?
Ah.
What's the response?
Oh.
Dolphin sounds. They broke into SeaWorld, these three lads, on Queensland's Gold Coast. According to the Mail, they're reported to have released the captive bred animal into a canal. In a statement, SeaWorld said they had received a call from a member of the public who spotted the penguin being chased out of the water, possibly by a shark, and then being chased back into the water by a dog.
Canals are dangerous in Australia, aren't they?
How could this penguin have protected itself, possibly?
If it was my daughter, Cynthia,
Yeah.
I would have taught Cynthia the basics of self-defence, which is, as we all know, if it's a gentleman that abducts you, always go for the groin and the eyes with your car keys.
Glad you mentioned self-defence, because Dirk might also have taken a lesson from a Slovakian hamster.
Well, it would work.
Here is said Slovakian hamster squaring up to a dog.
OK.
And here he is doing his best Bruce Lee impression.
I've got visions of Wendy Deng flying across the room.
Chris, I've got to ask you, didn't you come out in defence of the urban fox this week?
I did, yeah. They're doing very well, and we Brits don't like success terribly, do we? So as soon as an animal starts to succeed in spite of us and prosper, we seem to think we have to reach for the rifle.
You're converting me to flies, because they do incredibly well, and I think we're just jealous of them as a species. And I'm beginning to feel guilt for all those times I've thought bloody fly and hit it. Just because I'm stupidly wasting food.
Surely you can keep a fly off your food without needing to swat it? Haven't you got one of those sort of lacy little things that you put over your sandwiches? Those little lacy clip thing?
No, obviously not. I've got a chap who does that.
It is now time for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. The Queen, Chris Packham, a cabbage, and, Nick Brodie.
That's me and juvenile plumage. This is a Jubilee thing. It's because I'm punk rocking it with the Sex Pistols in '77.
Yeah, weren't we all? No, it's obvious. They're all members of Al-Qaeda. All of them working for the inside, and fortunately, someone is onto them.
Secrecy is closer than where you have been. They all send secret signals, apart from Chris Packham, who secretly shoehorned lyrics from over 30 songs by the Smiths into his Springwatch appearances.
Did you really?
Here he is doing it. It's unbelievable.
Got to ask, what difference does it make? What a handsome devil he is. And frankly, Mr. Shankly. But it really is a case of big mouth strikes again, as it were, when the Queen is dead. And, Kate, stop me if you've heard this one before. Sweet and tender hooligan.
Do you have any mates at all?
No, not really. Last night I dreamt someone loved me.
Scientists in Exeter have discovered that wounded cabbages send secret warning messages to neighbouring cabbages.
Wounded? What? Wounded cabbage?
Wounded cabbage?
What ones who've been told they're not very
Emotionally
attractive?
scarred cabbages.
Scarred cabbage.
Do you know how they might send this message?
Pheromones. They release them. All sorts of trees do this to stop insects from attacking them. So they prepare the plant, and the adjacent plant, which catches a whiff of these chemicals, then pumps something less edible into its tissues.
In the experiment,
Yes?
one cabbage plant had a leaf cut off with scissors and started emitting a gas, thereby telling its neighbours there may be trouble ahead.
Is this a joke?
No.
Seriously, if you're telling me that in the fruit and veg section, the cabbages specifically are going, watch out, she's back again, I find that really, really disturbing. Cabbages are warning each other that we're approaching. What do we have to do? Do we have to sneak up on the cabbages?
According to an excerpt in the Mirror from a book called 60 Glorious Years, the Queen uses her handbag to send signals to her aides. Any ideas what signal she sends?
Oh, I've had enough of this. Or something like that. She picks up the handbag and starts swinging it around her head.
If she wants to leave a dinner
Yeah.
in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
she puts her bag on the table. She moves it from arm to arm to tell aides she is tired of talking to someone.
Yeah.
And if she sees Bruce Forsyth approaching, she puts it over her head and holds her breath. The last caption is Nick Brodie, who sent secret signals to Al-Qaeda in Homeland by twitching his fingers. Or so one is led to believe.
Is this a television programme?
Apparently.
What's it shown on?
It's on Channel 4.
Is it?
At 9 o'clock every
Yeah.
Sunday night.
Is it?
And I always get ready.
They all send secret signals apart from Chris Packham, who secretly shoehorned lyrics from over 30 songs by the Smiths into his Spring Watch appearances. But they weren't a signal, they were done for a bet. He would have included Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, but they'd already been said by the Badger being gassed. According to the Mirror, the Queen's handbag includes royal photos. Well, I say photos, a few tenors and a book of stamps. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features, as its guest publication, Absolute Horse.
There's another one called Relative Horse.
Is there one for the cattle industry called Absolute Bull, by any chance?
And we start with Camilla, sent into space to what?
It's something to do with solar storms. Camilla's the name of this small, dodgy-looking probe.
Oh, I thought it was...
I think you'll find he's married to the heir with a throne, actually.
I thought it was sent into space to amuse Her Majesty the Queen. I thought it was part of the celebration.
Fine. We should all be able to look up at the skies and see it orbiting the Earth. With her arse on fire as she goes through the atmosphere.
Maybe that's the climax of the Olympic
Yeah,
opening
exactly.
ceremony. Camilla just being fired
The
out of a
Olympic
rocket.
flame lights this enormous rocket.
It's fine solar storm, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Study solar storm. This is American students who sent a rubber chicken on a giant helium balloon 120,000 feet into space to photograph a solar radiation storm. According to The Guardian, carried aboard were 7 insects. None of the insects survived. It means nothing to us, but to the insect world, it was their challenger. Next, hacking activities curtailed for what?
For as long as no one's looking, says Murdoch.
Horses suffering from sweet itch. This is from Absolute Horse magazine. The March edition features horse makeovers, how to look good naked. Next, what may be key to looking young, say Mexicans?
Tequila, chili, being Mexican, escaping across the border.
Is it being under 18?
Standing next to Rupert Murdoch.
Burritos, Mexican food, chili beans.
Yes,
Drinking
keep going, keep
moustache.
going.
Again, chili beans. What else
Keep going,
is
yes.
Shooting
the
your
dips
enemy in
there,
the back.
Guacamole.
Yes, guacamole! This is from research conducted in Mexico, which, according to The Times, is the world's largest avocado producer. In a parallel study, they also claim drinking tequila boosts your IQ and wearing a sombrero makes you look sexy. And finally, Donald Trump's hair, what?
Declared World Heritage Site.
Hair is attacked by a prankster with balloon.
That's absolutely right. Targeted by pro-turbine protesters. Have a look.
something rubbed the balloon and
Yeah.
a static electric... I mean, that's just fantastic, isn't
And
it?
he,
That's brilliant.
apparently he's furious. Furious. If there's one thing he hates, it's his hair being made to look stupid. So, the final scores are Ian and Chris have 7, Paul and Susan squeaking by with 8. On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Chris Packham, Paul Merton and Susan Calman, and I leave you with news that Olympic organisers admit it was a mistake to allow official sponsors, John West, to design the media centre. As her car is impounded, a motorist is adamant she had another day left on her parking permit. And in BBC TV Centre, an assassin realises time is fast running out as his target approaches a flight of stairs. Good night.
Next, Sarah Millicanna on Cats That Ignore Her, Gabby Logan on The Only Way Is Essex, and Greg Wallace on barbecues. Room 101 Extra Storage here on BBC One.
I might enrol a fox as a special advisor. Put him in charge of the chickens.
When you say a fox, do you mean someone like Theresa May?
Is that your definition of a fox, dear? I'm in with a right shout with you, then. This is magic.
Isn't it, everybody?
Look, he's been in prison in a hole for 8 years.
Why, thank you, Ian. That makes me feel much better.
Yeah.